I.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another all-new X's for Podcast, your premier comic podcast for mutant marvels, chrono skimming classics, and more. I'm Nico, and you guys can catch me on Twitter and Instagram at Nico Action. That's NicoAction.
And I'm TK. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at XNateXGrayX.
And Nathan, you can find me online at Twitter and like pretty much every social at Dazzler AOA. That's like Dazzler in the age of apocalypse.
And we are back to talk X-Men. It's a new year, bunch of books ending, bunch of stuff starting. I am so excited. We're going to be taking a look at New Mutants. We're going to be taking a look at hold on, I can do this from memory. Marauders. We are going to be taking a look at Immortal X-Men, Legion of X, and X-Men Annual. And then we're going to top it all off with a little special surprise. And yeah, bunch of exclamation points, a question mark. But we could not do this without the amazing voices of the X-Pack. So I think you guys want to bring them in?
Let's bring them
Let's
in.
do it.
Let's do it.
All right. All right, I got to pass this on over to the voice who knows what they're doing with these New Mutants. Nathan, you're the, oh, but real quick, that amazing banner over on that side. Nathan, could you just point to that side for me? Other side. I love these amazing new banners. This awesome like spine binding that's gonna be making it easy. There we go. Thank you, Kevy.
Love
we can
those.
now, like, point at like this is the book we're covering. It's always this awesome spine binding. Thank you so much, Kevo. The design on this show just always blows my mind. Okay, now we're good. Nathan, please take over.
All right. So first off, we got two more members of the team with us right now. All right, Steve, Jonah, introduce yourselves.
Hello, it's me, Steve, and you can find me on Twitter, on Tumblr, on Mastodon, on Hive if it's still there, at Howdyduda. That's HOWDYDUDA. And my pronouns are they and them. Hello.
Hey everyone, it's Jonah. You can follow me on socials at Peak Jonah. That's PEAK, and we hope you survive this experience.
So let's get right into it. So we're talking about New Mutants 32 and 33. This amazing story was brought to us by Charlie Jane Anders as our writer, Alberto Albuquerque with Rose Stein and Ted Brandt, and they are on the Young Morgan and Sheila parts. As our artist, our colorist is Carlos Lopez and Tamara Bonvillain. Also, Tamara Bonvillain is on the Young Sheila and Morgan, and our letterer is VC's Travis Lanham. So, let's get into this. So we are at the final arc of the Krakoan New Mutants saga. It's the last issue we're talking about. The last two issues we're talking about. Before we get into this book, overall, where have y'all been with New Mutants as a whole as a book? Are you sad to see it go?
Yeah, I missed the Vita stuff. I missed some of the Brisson stuff. This arc was fun, but I felt like what I loved already ended. and this was definitely something different. And I'm excited to see it get its own #1, because it just was not numbers like 29 or 31 or whatever of
Right.
another book. So my shit was already over, and I loved it. And I'm really excited to see where this book goes for this new team and these new creators.
Yep.
Definitely the numbering is a little bit confusing insofar as we are doing these last few issues with Charlie Jane Anders, who's fantastic, and then starting a new book with Charlie Jane Anders, and kind of it seems like the same team, the big focus on Sheila, who is a great character, but it feels like maybe we ought to have stopped at 30 and started the new number, the new book there. So a little bit confusing, and I think that's been one of the big problems in these later years of the Krakoan era, where we as fans are just sort of not really clear on what's going on with our ongoings and our minis, and when the minis are kind of grouped together as an ongoing, but it's still restarting every 5 issues. Gets a little confusing, and unfortunately sometimes that can hurt the enjoyment of the content. But overall, we have all become, I think, adept at figuring it out, and I really did love this run. I love that Vita created so many queer and trans mutants through her time in Age of X-Men, and then got to import them into this reality, and that another trans creator was able to take a lot of those characters and do more with them and add her own. Just really exciting overall to see kind of this legacy pull through and change hands, and it kind of gives me hope that we're normalizing this in creative and editorial such that other people will be able to continue the tradition as well.
Yeah, I I agree with TK. I in some respects there, I not particularly happy about New Mutants being quote unquote canceled at the end of this 3-issue run and started off again with a new miniseries. I just feel like New Mutants is the longest running Krakoan book, apart from X-Force. I mean, they've been going the same amount of time, but it has less issues. And it's had a wonderful continuity the whole time. It would have made more sense to break up the Jonathan Hickman and Ed Brisson runs apart from the Vita Ayala run to begin with.
Yeah.
But I feel a little bit like ending on a first story by the ongoing new writer of the series and then finishing the series and then starting up again with a miniseries feels, I don't know the minds of Marvel, but it feels like it's sending a message to the readership that hey, you don't really have to check this one out, or maybe only if you want to. And I feel like it's harmful to break up Charlie Jane Anders her run on New Mutants between 2 separate volumes, technically speaking. But, maybe it will be fine for the readers. I personally, one thing I do like about it is that we're getting a clean break from the Sheila Sexton introductory story before the run starts in earnest. So we've got a little bit of an introduction here at the end. It's sort of like a bookend, and it finishes out, a story that started outside of New Mutants. So now we have a clean break and a new slate to start on with Lethal Legion. But I wish it wasn't starting with a limited end date,
Yep.
Absolutely. New Mutants has been a book that I think for me has had pretty consistent enjoyment throughout, no matter the writer, whatever era we've been in. I will say, and I'm going to echo the agreement and sentiments that everybody else has been talking about, that I do think Marvel needs to work on the numbering a little bit. I understand that they don't really want to constantly be breaking off and having so many restarts, but I also understand that when you don't do it that way, it makes it feel like everything is continuous. We're starting for everything should be from the exact same story, and we'll have the exact same characters, or somebody new will be added. There shouldn't be too much of a cast change, but there's a lot of variations in the stories throughout New Mutants, the entire run that we got since the start of the Krakoan era, that I do think it is a little confusing as a fan and reader to go through this and go, this is a little hard to follow, because it's just, as everybody said, I am excited to be looking forward to a new title. As always, I am interested to see what that means, what is that going to look like, how that's going to go. I will say I do think that the title of New Mutants should never really go away. I think there's always a market. I think there's always a story there. I think there's always a cast of characters you could choose from for New Mutants. And I do hope that the title New Mutants by itself does come back one day.
Well, and I feel bad for Nathan more than anybody. Poor Nathan got like ball tapped on the soul with Karma being on the cover of 33.
Yeah, where's one? Why is she not in anything? Like what? And I'm like, after she got her for real life name now, and everything, that's not a made up name.
Well, she's got that Love Unlimited story we're gonna do.
Yeah, so that's a good story. Everybody read it. It's
Yeah.
a really good story. It's really important to Karma as a character. So please read
Phenomenal
it.
cartooning as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. I think I gotta say, like, I like a lot of the ideas of this arc. I think maybe it wasn't done the justice because I don't think it got a full arc set of issues, because we only got 3 issues of this arc. Is the last arc for New Mutants, is the first introduction to Charlie Jane Anders. So I think, like, any of my criticisms of the story itself, it's just I don't feel like we really had enough time to get it fleshed out. I love a lot of what she is doing and how she's introducing actual trans characters that matter into the story. Vita, they did an amazing job of introducing a lot of these characters. I don't think they got to develop them maybe as much as they would have wanted to, but they were also telling a story about our main group of New Mutants, mainly who we consider more as like the New Mutants when we think of. I did like Reign as sort of the OG New Mutants kind of point of reference in this, and I got to say Charlie Jane Anders did something that I kind of thought would be impossible. She sort of made me not hate Reign as much. I know Vita had done a lot of work, redeeming the character before, but I think Charlie Jane Anders really stuck that landing with the sort of redemption is a character of Reign, is a redemption of Reign as a character that we could all enjoy. How did you like her use of Reign in the story? And do you think that did it do something similar for you, or were you already like, yeah, I love Reign?
I love having Reign in the story because Reign is a werewolf, and you got to put a werewolf in the story that features all the trans and trans adjacent mutants. I think that's clever. I think having her and Cerebella's in here is great. I think Kosmara is like the only person that I would have maybe expected who was missing. Reign is a fun choice. Emma Frost is a great choice. Destiny's wife is trans, so there's a lot of fun addition of characters in there. And as you know, I already love Reign. I just ignore all the really shit stories that have been written about her in the last 10 to 15 years.
I mean, a lot of it's just Peter David. So if you don't read Peter David,
but it's not all down to him.
It's not all of it.
It is down to a lot of people firmly believing, I guess, that somebody who had already escaped from a religious cult would react in this way, and that's fine, and we don't need to talk too much about that. But Reign is in a really good place now. And Reign has been in the best place that she's been since she was a teenager, really, in Krakoa. And I like that she's taking the opportunity to maybe make up for some past wrongs, specifically in her academic life, although I don't really think she should be around kids anymore.
I feel like that's a story that we now have to just say didn't happen, because
I would prefer.
There's just no resolving it any other way. I really appreciate how Vita and Charlie Jane Anders have a good shorthand when it comes to kind of updating us on what the New Mutants are doing, such that, like, I think with very little page and panel time, we understand that Karma and Danny are pretty heavily teaching. They're working really hard to train the next generation. Unfortunately, I feel like things might be better served by having 2 books, The Lost Club and New Mutants. The kids, the kids get most of that time, and it's great. It's all really good time. And the New Mutants, when they are working with the kids, they get more focus. A lot of that has been Reign. And it's just gotten a little bit muddled, and we just haven't gotten as much time with all of them and all of them together as I was kind of hoping, because we were doing these great stories about the kids. And this is a really good example of, like, Danny and Karma don't go. So we get a great story for Sheila. We get a great story for Cerebella. We have some really good time with the Lost Club together. I love all of that. We get some development for Rain, but what starts as a really cool moment for Danny and Karma, they just kind of disappear. And I kind of wish that I was reading their book where I was following what they're doing in the classroom at the same time as one of the other teachers is doing a field trip.
Like an
So, you know, none of it is
vibe.
A plot, B
exactly.
plot. A plot,
Yeah.
B plot. We want that. We want more of that B plot that just disappeared.
Yeah.
Evidently, it dances a lot, but yeah.
I know that. Oh, I was just saying, I know that Lethal Legion is meant to lead into the Fall of X, so it's something that's going to take up most of next year before we get a shift. I'm hoping that we see an ongoing New Mutants comic come out of that. I do think it would be great to separate the Lost Club and the New Mutants into separate books. I think the Lethal Legion mini is a great opportunity to do that, especially since a lot of these kids that I personally love following from New Mutants and have been created in those pages and in Prisoner X are going to be in Bishop's War College. So a lot of those characters are getting spread around a lot more than they used to be. So maybe there's more opportunity for the series to focus on the original New Mutants as well now.
Like Sublime. Sublime's getting spread out a lot more than he ever used to be.
Yeah.
There's Sublime everywhere. It's just Sublime. You want Sublime? I got Sublime for you. And I'm just... cool. I'm cool. I love pilfering from sacred runs because nothing should be sacred. It's at a shared company. Everyone should touch it. No one's special, right? Just make sure that you know what you're doing with it. I'm sure the writers using Sublime know what they're doing with it. I'm so worried about the fact that all of a sudden Sublime's in a ton of books. Now I'm wondering if like Sublime is going to be how the bad guys have a Krakoan protocol. Maybe through Sublime they can come back. Yes, literally. It's going to be a bunch of some sort of Santorian what I got witch doctors coming. So yes, that's Sublime. 40 ounces to Krakoan freedom. But I wonder why they're pivoting so hard to Sublime in such a big way. And now I really want M-Plate hopped up on Sublime just to see what happens.
Well, that would be gross. I think Rain was a good choice if you're picking a proper New Mutant, or I should say classic New Mutant, someone that the audience is much more familiar with, to kind of help guide these younger characters throughout this story. I think Rain was written well. I don't know if I liked this particular voice for Emma, though. I do think
Agreed.
Emma was a little off in this book. And I'm not sure exactly what it was. It felt like more Emma was like the mean principal, and I can imagine that role, but I don't know if it was quite brought to a level where like I really got the connection of where Emma's current characterization can help fill what the role needed for what the role was needed for this book.
Agreed. And like rereading it last night, like me and Steve got in a conversation about, really, are Destiny and Emma friends? Like would they be friends? Like I don't like Emma's probably the one who Destiny has talked to the most since she's been resurrected that we've seen on panel, at least. So
Yeah.
I feel like they hang a little bit.
yeah.
Destiny needs to have
Maybe,
friends.
neither of them can really be friends with anybody, but I feel like, like they both enjoy each other's like stoicism and appreciation for the finer things in life, let's say. I also thought, I agree, Jonah, insofar as like, I don't think that the book was going for this. I think it accidentally stumbled upon it, but I sort of read it as like, they maybe weren't as sinister as they appeared. It was from the kids' perspective and from the New Mutants' perspective that they were kind of seeing them as a little bit more like salacious and kind of just in it for their own purposes. I think you can read it that way. I don't necessarily think that's the intention, but I really like the idea that if Immortal X-Men was approaching what Emma was doing in Mutants, you might see a perspective wherein she was really doing the thing that she always does, which is trying her best to take care of the children. And when you see it in New Mutants, you're just seeing her bring down the commands and seem like kind of an asshole. And that's just sort of how I attempted to kind of fudge what I feel like is just a little more like, I'm Emma Frost and I do what I want and you follow my rules.
If we can, I think we need to talk about the kids' perspective. I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's like pretty much this entire series hinges on that, on how these kids view things versus how we view things. Because I'm just going to say it, like I got to come out and say it. This series would be way more satisfying if I didn't have to constantly, in my head, kind of think that everybody in this doesn't know things that they do know, or that they, it's really tough to get around the whole, like, everybody knows about resurrection, including these kids. Everybody knows that they're going to come back from the dead. I think the only way that this series works and is more satisfying is looking at it from the kids' perspective and thinking like, all right, so these kids know now that they will be resurrected. The main thing is that they don't want to die. They're teenagers who have never died. It's much like at the beginning of Way of X when Nightcrawler had that moment with Pixie where, he has to worry about this whole like, oh my God, but like the blood will be on my hands. And I think that's something that's being picked up here by Charlie Jane Anders. And I wish that the story and the dialogue and the themes of it had made that more of a focus, if that makes any sense, because the only way I can really understand this like absolute panic and fear is through something that's introduced in these 3 issues, which is that Sheila has an intense fear of being the person who causes harm to her friends. And it's something that Sarabella confronts her with. I think it's like the pivot of this entire series is that scene where Sarabella is like, you're not worried about giving me what I need and want right now to make me happy. You're worried about not feeling guilty for what you're going to do to me. And that's not right. That's not what helps me. That's only helping you. And by the end of the series, Sheila makes, the choice of switching herself out for Morgan to save Morgan's life and making that sacrifice and saying like, although I don't want to die, I'm going to do it. And I hope for resurrection, even though we all know frustratingly that will 100% happen. Sheila is still not completely sure about it, but I really like that the main thing is that Sheila, the whole series, has not been worried necessarily about whether they won't come back. I think she's just worried about feeling guilty for causing that harm to her friend, regardless, because it is going to be traumatic. It is going to be harm. And she's new to this whole being immortal and being a mutant thing. So it makes sense for her, especially as a teenager with huge emotions, or maybe a young woman, to be extremely, frightened and panicked about this whole idea. And for both of them to be panicked about it. It's just that we as the readers know that is not a problem. For us, it feels like there's no stakes, no tension, no actual problem there. So we have to see it from their perspective. I think it would be so much easier if this was like in a comic that was outside of the X line, because then readers who didn't know about all of that would be introduced to the idea. There's a lot going on there. And there's so much I love in the story. That is an important lesson for anybody to learn, that sometimes what you feel is going to be your responsibility and your guilt and your burden is just you centering yourself in somebody else's problem, when that is not what needs to be done to make harm go away, or to make the most happiness in a situation, or to make people feel safe or comfortable, to make them actually safe or comfortable. The other important thing that I really loved about it was the idea that we never saw Morgan die in that dream sequence, and nobody ever did. So obviously there was going to be something, and it's something so simple and something so silly as just having your friends there to catch you when you fall. Like the way out of this whole conundrum was just to have community with other mutants like you, other people like you, other trans people like you. And for them to be there to support you when you fall after you've been there to support them, and that literally happens when Leo catches Sheila as she falls and saves her life. And it's just like, duh. I hate to say that, because it's an important lesson. I really hope young kids, I hope young mutants, I hope young trans people, I hope young queer people pick this up and learn something that changes their life and starts them thinking on a path towards community and, supporting each other and not going it alone and not trying to take it all on yourself. But it's also just after everything we've read in the Krakoan era, we know about community. We know about how important it is. We know about how that is. So this does feel like, to me, it should have been a number 1. I think it would have been so much more powerful if the series was 1, 2, 3 of a new series. There's so much I love, but there's so much that it's hard to be satisfied with because of the necessary perspective that is forced on the reader.
Yep, that is a great last thought. I was just saying my last thought is along the same lines. I think it would have maybe done the series a lot more justice to have the miniseries start with issue 31 and, you know, give Charlie Jane Anders a longer run. I love what it is doing for visibility. There were some it was a hard jump from Vita's to Charlie Jane Anders. I know that we had Danny Laura in the middle there, but you know, it was a really hard jump from that, and I think it would have been served better with a new number one. And it was a decent arc. It's hard to say how Charlie Jane Anders' New Mutants run is going to be until we see a little bit more of it.
I think you guys covered a lot of what I was thinking and feeling about this. The last thing I'll say is that I'm really interested in trans identity as gender identity versus mutant identity versus transhumanism.
Yeah.
Charlie Jane Anders is so good at discussing all of these things. I knew her primarily as a writer of sci-fi and of transhumanist science fiction. And just like the male rights activist, like, why can't we be more than one thing if you can be, was just really great and good satire, but also great application. And that's what I see there being a lot of value in her writing for this particular sphere. But yeah, I mean, would have been great to maybe start this as its own thing earlier.
This is a really great use of the U-Men, which I can't say about almost any other writer who tries to pick on Morrison threads. So
I can't wait for more. I'm going to pass my Jonah. What are your last thoughts?
I think there's some really great ideas here, and I think the arc tells a lot of important lessons, themes, stories. It touches on so many wonderful things that I think are so important to have in the world of comics, to have in the world of fiction that anybody could pick up and anybody can read. I really do think, though, that this wasn't the best way to end the series, because it doesn't feel like a goodbye to the series. It feels like the series did end with 30, and then we kind of stumbled on, like, wait, we got one last little hurrah, but I don't know if this is the proper place for it. So that's where my enjoyment is a little bit fuddled, because I don't know if I can fully appreciate what the story was trying to tell me and everything, because we're trying to say, well, this is the end of the series, and I go, but what about, we're not going to say bye to, like, Mondo or Chamber, people who, like, headline this book that we haven't seen. Like, there's a lot that I think was missed as an opportunity to send this book off.
All right,
Mondo and Chamber were like 2 issues. I'm so sorry, but no.
Speaking of send off, we got to switch over to commercial for our next bit of coverage. We'll be right back. And we're back, and we are here to talk about Marauders number 9. And I'm leading this one, right? I just I just lost track. Okay,
I was
cool.
like, no, why am I there? I'm just kidding.
So we're here to talk about Marauders number 9, and Marauders number 9 has an exquisite creative team featuring Steve Orlando, who has done so much as a queer writer in the Marvel offices, killing it so much on Marauders, and I have been such a big fan of the work there. One of the best things about this title is that it has shown so much artistic dexterity. So the first thing I want to talk about is Eleonora, so sorry about that, Eleonora Carlini's art alongside Matt Mila and Ariana Mar on letters. The big thing for me here is I love this art, but I feel sometimes like this art makes the story a little harder to follow and vice versa. I feel like there's a difficulty in bringing these two things together for me. How do you guys feel about the visuals of the art?
So I'm just gonna say, like, I kind of love their suits, but it also makes it really, really hard sometimes to tell what character is talking. Like, I had to reread through a lot of it to say, like, wait, who is it? It's a female shaped character. So is it Tempo? Is it Kate? I think as cool as the art was, that part of it detracted from me. I don't think there was just a way to make it I think there could have been a better way to make the characters more clear as to who was speaking, who was doing what at the time.
Yes.
Who is
So-
speaking? I just need to introduce our new voice
my God.
because I'm the worst human. But Jake, would you
Hi,
kindly
Jake.
introduce yourself? I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries. Hi, I'm Jake. I'm a person, and you can find me on Twitter at Omega Sentinel. That's OH Mega Sentinel. And you can also find me on Instagram at The Heart Farmer. Like, I farm hearts, and they come out of the ground, and they bleed everywhere.
Thank you.
But
Very Cassandra Nova
All
of
right.
you.
Yeah.
We love to harvest a Krakoan organ. I was thinking about it as I was revisiting this, like, right before coming on, and I really love this art. I mean, like, it took me a while to kind of wrap my head around the movement and the energy of it. And I do agree that sometimes it can be a little hard to follow with the who's speaking side, which is not a great look. But I like that the names are on the costumes, and that's like helping me along, because I think somewhere along the line there's this conceit that it can be a little hard to follow, and so sometimes we do need to just put people's names on the side so we know who's talking. But that said, I love the unbreathing. I think they're so cool looking. I love the dream sequence, the whole dialogue between Aki and Somnus. I think that Eleonora does some really great, tender, quiet moments, but is really big on big moments. Really, like, these colorful, explosive, neon, active moments. Really, they get me so excited, especially for these big battles. So I like it a lot, and it's grown on me because they've been consistently on this book for so much of it. So I'm going to stay here as a fan and advocate of it in a big way, pulling hard.
It's so funny. You're describing the stuff that doesn't work for me so exuberantly. And like, I love that you are my partner and that we live together, and I get the energy from you because I don't feel it on my end naturally, and that's okay. But like, you described the scene with Somnus and Aki, and that really to me is one of the most beautiful because it is still. And because it is simple, and because we get to see this artist's very particular style in a way where there's no possible confusion, and there's this beautiful queer moment that is rendered in a style. Like, I mean, the only thing that kind of compares for me, and thinking about it right off the top of my head, is Bob Quinn doing the kiss between Betsy and Rachel, where it's just like this distinct artist who it will go in my head forever. And the same thing is true of Eleanor Carlini doing Somnus and Akihiro. But when we get into the action-y moments, it is so chaotic that even the labels, which I do appreciate, can't quite get me there in sort of being able to do the work that I love to do in comics of creating the movement in my mind. They're really beautiful, but they still just aren't. The functionality is really tough for me, and that is absolutely in part a me thing.
Yeah, I agree with all three of you on different things here. I really love the art for the series. The art is the driving force for it for me. The art and the colors are both super important to me. Yeah. I think the art has this amazing dynamism and kinetic sense of motion, like Jake was saying. It reminds me very specifically of Simone de Meo's work on We Only Find Them When They're Dead, which has just this like fast, incredibly action, very sharp angled look to it that has always been like, it really fits that series well. And I think it fits here really well because the series is doing a lot of like really similar sci-fi cool design things. Everybody looks fucking gorgeous. Like Kate Pride has not looked this hot ever. Tempo is just so beautiful every time we see her. Thea is like just a goddess, literally looks like a goddess of the moon. It's phenomenal.
Grove.
I think everything
Grove is amazing. Yeah,
Grove looks phenomenal. They're just like dripping.
The
art is amazing, but I think that the idea of having the suits is necessitated by the story. Having the names on the suits is necessitated by being completely unable to tell who's in them most of the time. And while it is a band-aid on a problem caused by the story, I don't know that the art always fully gets there. And I think it's just because sometimes those legs are not visible. Sometimes I cannot see whose leg it is. And I guess by body shape, and that slows me down in this otherwise very fast-paced and energetic book. I also think the art is very fast where the writing is very slow. I think the dialogue is
so much dialogue.
The dialogue is often
my God.
funky. It is often it is doing these huge concepts, but it's throwing all of this terminology at you all the time. The enriched, the enshrined, the gasping generation, the great oxygenation event, all these, the house of whatever. It's throwing so much at you to the point where you don't even have guns. You have choke staffs and night guns and stuff like that. And that makes me want to read this book over the course of an hour, whereas the art makes me want to read it over the course of 5 minutes. Yep. And that tension is really strange. I do also, I know I'm ranting at this point, but I do want to say, as regards to color work, being able to tell who Sublime and Archaea are, so important to have the hair color, so important to have the bubbles that are colored with their voices, because otherwise I would not know who anybody is in this comic at all. It looks great. It looks gorgeous. I can't always follow the action. That's a problem in comics.
And I think it's because this book is trying to do so much at all times. The amount of story that's kind of piled on itself, it almost feels like this book is desperate to tell you its relevance by comparing itself in juxtaposition to earlier concepts. I love that we're doing Cassandra Nova and Sublime and the Shi'ar and time travel and the 90s and 2099 and Kate and queer New Mutants, and like nothing has a chance to breathe in. This is the 10th issue if you count the annual. I feel like Steve Orlando is so busy flexing, he's not really taking the time to allow me to appreciate the beauty of his pose.
You absolutely nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Because Steve Orlando is doing some like big brain Grant Morrison attempting stuff. Like, I really respect that Steve Orlando is swinging for the fences and trying to do something big like New X-Men was doing. I wish more writers in the X office would do that. I think that is necessary. And sometimes it doesn't always work. And I don't know if this series always works. We haven't had a chance yet to talk about the next issue, which I did really love. But
I can't wait to cover that one in our next X one.
This one, I felt like the small things worked best. Like that scene with Somnus and Aki that you both brought up is so beautiful. It is so heartwarming. It's tragic. It touched me in all the right places, especially my heart. And I think the series is really good when it gets a chance to slow down and do that, but it has not had that breathing room.
So I would love to hear everybody's thoughts on the story and the art as we kind of transition out of this maybe less big issue of Marauders, preparing for next issue, which is a bit more to talk about. So everybody, hit me with your sort of like summation thoughts on Marauders as we transition on over to Immortal X-Men.
I'm going to say, so for me, like there's a lot to love, but there's a lot in this. There's a lot. There's so much. It's like Steve Orlando's like, this might be my only X run. Let me throw everything I want to deal with in this. I think if Steve Orlando had pulled back and he had maybe not added so many of the elements and because we know where he was trying to get to with the story. I think if he'd stripped some of it down, it might have been a more emotionally compelling arc. Yeah, I think it's got a lot of cool, good stuff in there. It's just so rushed and so fast. Like this whole 9 issues so far probably could have been stretched out into different arcs so that they made sense. Things were a little bit more like important. I think throwing 2099 in and then just like kind of like bye, and then now at the end of this issue we got Strife in there, and it's like I've got so many questions. Like how are you Strife? How do we know that you're Strife and not Cable? If you're a genetic clone, like,
well, because Cable doesn't dress like that.
Maybe he's an X-Man with a better fashion sense.
Cable doesn't dress in crabs
Cable
and spikes.
doesn't do. Yeah, Cable doesn't do spiky helmets.
Yeah, that's how we know.
But like, if he's grown from clone DNA, like, how did he like have memories? I don't know.
Well,
I'm so confused.
Well, there's a bunch of Strife clones and there's a bunch of Cable
this
clones
is
in
a
the
good
Cable
point,
series,
though.
so you know.
But this is a good point insofar as like there's still a greater plot that's being developed that includes things like the puzzle box that we still is like our full series MacGuffin that we're chasing after. Why is Strife there when Strife should be dead at this point? And how did he pop out of the puzzle box into the Primordial Sea? Like I love this series. I love the whole thing. I think this thing is like written for someone exactly like me.
Yes, it is.
You know, I talk about how like X-Men is such a like a fundamental part of like my personal mythology and my symbolic vocabulary. And so seeing all of these characters, these somewhat random pulls in some ways together, interacting, being the most themselves that they have ever gotten to be. Some of it, like in Heather's case, getting to be the most herself that she's ever been able to be. It's rewarding seeing all of this history getting pulled on. It's really fun seeing how Steve is weaving story together, adding to it, building on it without taking anything away from the stories that came before. I think is satisfying, and I love the project of this is mutant history, like not short term but long term, up and down the timeline. And I'm sure that somehow it's going to loop back around if you've got a Mysterium puzzle box that has a Strife seed in it. I'm so here for the ride. Sometimes I have to go back and read through the dialogue again, but that's rewarding for me. I enjoy the rehash. I enjoy the like, oh, I missed that on the first time. And I know that that's not how everyone reads, and so it's not going to really ring true for everyone in that way. But I'm having so much fun with this series. Every new arc that we get, we're in the future, we're in the past, we're in space. I love it, and it's all X-Men relevant because the X-Men have all been there. So it's exciting.
That's what I talk about when I say that I love being your partner, because I don't 100% feel that way. I don't hate this, but like I don't love it the way you do. But your energy and love for it is invigorating to me, and also just kind of goes to show that, like, yeah, not every series has to be everybody's favorite, and not everybody's big swings have to work for two people in the same household. As long as they're not complete failures, there's a lot of merit there. And I don't think this is a complete failure at all. I think it's really great. I just don't necessarily have that same enthusiasm. I think, the one thing that I will say that that hasn't been brought up yet is that the idea that Sublime is in both this and New Mutants, but I'm not seeing any real connection,
right,
I'm not blaming either author, but it is a bit of a disappointment at this point. And I think it just there's a footnote, but like we're not really seeing like, is this a plan that Sublime is pulling off in the past? And
difficult to do that given the confines of the story, but I agree. Yeah.
I mean, I can see why it might not be happening, but since we're seeing them both in both stories, it's a bit of a disconnect for me.
We don't need anything else added to the story.
Especially since Sublime seems like a different person in Marauders and in and in New Mutants. It is unfortunate to not have the connective tissue there when there was a chance to do that. It is not like, I don't know, it's why do them both at the same time if not to tell a story between them. But I agree. I think this series has a lot of like flaws that I can pick up on. Just stuff that maybe doesn't work for me as well. Like sometimes the dialogue doesn't work for me as well. Sometimes it feels like muddy or difficult to get through. I know that the extremely convoluted plot and the overstuffed like plot again is a real turnoff for a lot of my friends who are reading this series, stuff like that. But I found the art to be inassailable throughout the series. I've loved looking at it. I think the fact that everybody gets interesting and different skin tones is really cool. That's a bar that is in hell, but it's amazing.
And like healthy proportioned bodies too, like
Yeah.
real human looking bodies.
And we're actually getting tempo. Like, come on, I gotta like give all the credit in the world for that. We're actually getting some tempo, like characterization. Like, this is probably the most characterization ever she's had. Like, even throughout X-Force, because she was always just like, I'm a terrorist, but I want to go to school and not be a terrorist. And she's so much more complex than that now.
Story.
I agree. That's what I was going to say next.
So beautiful.
These characters are characters that get underserved everywhere else, and they're getting served well here, except for Aurora, whatever. But like I completely agree. Tempo is my favorite part of the series. If you've ever loved Tempo,
that's the thing.
Hey guys,
There
I'm
are
so
a
sorry.
couple
We
of
do
the
need to wrap
characters
this
who
one
are
up
on
so that
this
we can
team.
get to Immortal. We do need to wrap this one up shortly. I'm real
I-
sorry, guys. So
I like Marauders. I think it's good. I've turned around on the series. I think it represents growth and maturation from Steve Orlando from the last few comics I've read by him. That's
Jake,
I just think that the characters who are getting the most development in the series, the ones who have had the least amount of attention historically. Like, we're not getting a lot of Bishop. We're not getting a ton of Kate Pride, although we do get some fun stuff in the next issue. But like, it's Akihiro, it's Somnus, it's Tempo, who are really getting these like front and center characterizations and character developments in big ways. And I love that. I like that prioritization scheme. That makes me happy.
The one last thing I just want to say is I love how the X lines are actually taking these characters from the Pride specials and making them important.
Yeah.
So like
1000%.
thumbs up when like a lot of times we get those characters and they're like one shot and they never appear again. But like both Sheila Escapade and Somnus both first appeared in the Pride special. So bravo.
Love it. And speaking of things that involve Kate Pride, we're going to come back with some Immortal X-Men coverage that's going to burn everything down.
Burn it down!
Burn it! God bless the bumper that stops my dancing.
I know, right? It's like, oh wait, we're coming back.
Right? Gotta stop doing this the entire time. So
I guess it's my turn to talk about. I love doing this book because I feel like no matter what the roundtable nature of what we do here makes it feel like it's a council meeting for us.
Yes.
So anyway, we're talking, of course, about Immortal X-Men number 9, written by Kieran Gillen, art by Lucas Vernick, color art by David Curiel, with letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. You guys, Are we ready? Is this getting us ready? Are we ready for Sins of Sinister?
Yeah, I'm ready.
No.
I've been ready. I was born ready.
I was having so much fun with Sinister being a dandy, silly,
We got a yes, we got a no.
That guy. I don't want it.
I gotta say, it's, you know what, this issue has got me excited to see where it is going to go, but then at the same time I also am like, oh, it is going to be another Judgment Day where everything just kind of gets reset at the end.
I'm more worried that it's going to be an Age of X-Men or Age of Apocalypse, and it's just going to be like, what if Sinister ran the world? And like, I'm thrilled because I want this.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I might be out of sync slightly. Oh,
it's okay. Good, keep going, because then I want to return to my question for you.
Okay, I'm just kind of nervous that this is going to be like a big Sinister resets the universe, and this is just sort of like why Sinister was the bad voice in Judgment Day. He was the bad thing in the Celestial. If Tony Stark decided to recreate the world, it wouldn't be to eugenically torture people. And that is, Sinister is like literally here to destroy people. He is here to blow people's brains up, and not for the betterment of anyone but himself. And this is like, I'm so excited that this is happening, because we're at the point where now Sinister must come due for his sins. Like, this literally must be the point at which he can't just walk back on the council. And I'm thrilled about that, and at the same time, I am sad this great era of Sinister is ending.
Frustrating that it's happening before Beast.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking that too. When you said comeuppance. When you said comeuppance, I was like, it's funny that we're getting Sinisters, but not Beasts. Beast also really deserves it.
I'm sorry to talk about another book, but there's another book that just came out in which he's getting the silent treatment for his crimes of building a prison moon. He's like, my prison moon was a good idea, see? And they're like, ignore him. He can't hurt you if you ignore him. And I'm like, no.
But the way this issue went full tilt from like, oh, Sinister, he's so funny and ineffective, to like, oh,
he's still pretty funny and ineffective
to
me.
I mean, his final moves on the Quiet Council were horrific.
Yeah.
Sorry.
TK, we lose you.
And we're going to end up talking about some really bad versions of Apocalypse, but I find it really interesting that we got in Apocalypse this horrible villain gone kind of right. And I feel like we all were sort of excited that we might be getting that with Sinister. And it just became very clear that it's a different vibe for Sinister. He is really like, the best we're going to get is silly dandy, but we're never going to get like, he meets his wife and, maybe things are okay when he finally does the thing that was his initial mission. We maybe can get that from one of these other Sinisters. And, we're not going to talk about it this week, but we will eventually talk about who was right about who was in an orb. But, I'm just like, to realizing that he can't ever be Apocalypse.
No, you're absolutely right, and he shouldn't be. I don't want it. He's so much better as a villain. Always has been. Sinister is not a hero. There is a large section of the internet who will tell you that you are a monster for even trying, but I don't think it should happen regardless of your moral views on Sinister. He is like, Apocalypse was a nothing character. I've always liked Apocalypse. I have always liked Apocalypse, and he was nothing until what happened to him in Dawn of X. So Sinister doesn't have that.
I mean, but Sinister is the character you love to hate, though. Like, he's creepy and slimy and oily, and he had that weird kiss of Jean Grey when she was unconscious in Inferno that made me go like, ick, all over. That kind of never, like, in all of his characterizations, the thing that made me go ick all over has never gone away, and that. It's been couched, it's been reframed, it's been made funny, and some of the edge has been taken off of it, so it's a little more approachable, because there's only so much like awful stuff you can do before you make a character like inaccessible, and you want your villains to have some accessibility, especially in an X-Men story. But he's always been icky and like slimy and like and it's really, especially the art the art reflecting Sinister the last few months just seems to be getting more oily and villainy, and it all fits really well. This has been a good transition from out of Sinister's leadership era into his re-villain era, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know what Moira was so worried about, because Destiny seems to be like more worried about like trying to stop Sinister than anything that Moira was ever trying to come up with. Like I'm like, wait, this is a good thing. Like I've loved that now that Destiny has been resurrected, that basically her arch nemesis is Essex. Which Essex, all of them probably. But like I can't wait to learn more about these other Sinisters that we finally got another one revealed, and we still have one more to be revealed. I can't wait to learn it. I can't wait to go into this into Sinister to see if that relationship becomes like something more fleshed out, or if or if Sinister's just like, I'm gonna kill you, Irene. Ha.
Yeah, the reveal of Sinister and Destiny having like an inextricable bond over the last 150 years is so brilliant last issue, and I love that it's going to be carrying forward. I am obsessed with their dynamic. I would need more of it. I would take an entire book that was just the two of them. This whole book kind of has been, but obviously other characters have gotten perspectives, and I want to talk about them really quick because Kate Pride is in this one. Kate Pride is in her I am hotter than I've ever been era. I don't know what's going on. Between Marauders, between this one, every book she's appearing in lately, she's just stunning. Lucas Wernick, if you want to draw people with black lipstick on for the rest of your life, I will buy those. Like even Sinister looks good in this issue with his mustache and his little black lipstick. But I don't know what it is. Something about the way Wernick draws women with black lipstick on. I'm just like, whew, I'm obsessed with these characters now. And just like Kate Pride covered in blood. There's a lot of that, and there should be a lot of that. I love that they're reclaiming that she, yes, was actually a badass raised by Wolverine and should be doing more things like this. I love that writers who actually like her character are picking her up and doing things with her, because I feel like that was not the case for quite a while.
And I love that she's being drawn with like some like heaviness this issue. Like one of the things I've loved about Wernick's art is that it's been so heavily hyper beautiful. And here, there's like an aggression to the panels that does not seek to say beautiful. It says sexy and powerful and dynamic in other ways. Yeah. But this is such a massive, exploration of ability and versatility of style that I think really befits the nature of how the Quiet Council went from feeling like fat cat politicians to now they're a wartime council. And the beauty, the shine. Now they're not fighting these ridiculous monsters. They're fighting the monsters that are ridiculously on their council. And
I don't know. They do fight a big octopus with laser eyes, though.
I blame Sinister.
Yeah, the visual
creativity of let's move into final thoughts, everybody. And I want to sound out Jake because I feel like you were about to say something.
About the nature of this amazing book. First of all,
I'm just saying final thoughts.
Dark Beast's head is in a tube, which kind of negates some of the theories I had about Current Beast, but there you go. But Essex is such a perfect villain for right now. I don't know what Moira was so like. I can't believe, like what was said about Moira and Destiny's concern makes no sense to me anymore. I can't believe she wasn't concerned about Sinister, especially living through so many lives where Sinister betrays everyone and fucks Krakoa.
She was opposed to getting Sinister. She was opposed to getting Sinister on the council and having him be part of the Five's resurrection. I don't know how they would have done it otherwise, but I remember her
strongly enough.
Well, but Sinister is
Xavier did walk all over.
More concerned.
So it's both.
She was more concerned about not resurrecting Destiny than she was about Sinister on the Quiet Council, which is like bonkers to me. Anyway, we're going to it. I love an Age of Apocalypse style story because so much came out of the Age of Apocalypse once we got back, like Dark Beast and his head in a tube. So I guess going into Sinister, let's do it.
I gotta say, I love that we're actually getting an exploration of Moira's abilities through the clone work through killing the clones. I love that we are actually seeing that that there is almost a hard limit, that like her power just breaks reality so much. You know, once you get to 10 times, you're kind of like, oh shit, that's fractured. Like, no more.
Score sheet.
Steve, you got any final thoughts?
Oh, I mean, you all really covered it. Honestly, I just wanted to shout out the visual creativity of everything that happens in this issue. Like, it is a comic book ass comic. All of the things that I've had trouble with in other issues this week or in the last few weeks don't appear here. Everything works from panel to panel. The structure is perfect. It looks incredible on the page. I always know exactly what is going on, which is my favorite thing in comics. It's the thing I love about JR Jr. But
the data page with the murder notes, I love it.
Yeah, it looks like
Days.
the entire team sings together on this issue, and it's phenomenal.
You know, I just really am grateful for the work that Kieran Gillen did. He inherited something, and I wonder if the pivot from Moira to Sinister was because Kieran was like, I don't want to play with somebody else's thing. It's a beautiful thing, but that's not my thing, and I'm not going to finish someone else's story. I'm going to continue the legacy in a different way. Sinister is powered by Moira clones, so if Destiny ever had bad vibes about Moira, she's still technically the bad thing here. It's just through Sinister, who is so good at using the cloned bodies of very powerful women to frighten people.
Oh,
that
God.
It kind of tracks. And I just want to say a strong farewell to this era. You know, one of the things that I think was so great was they got us to stop calling it the Hickman era. And we never started calling it the Gillen era. We've been just calling it the Immortal era or the continued Krakoan era. And my hope is that Gillen's, stamp on this era is he gets to do his next thing. If it's still in X-Men, please. But like if it's anywhere else too, it's just he's done such a beautiful job. I'm sad to see this era end, even if his next thing is the next era of this.
Yeah. That's funny. I never think of it as the Gillen era, but that's just because I feel like they've successfully gotten away from the idea of like
they've trained us from not doing that anymore.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Having Al
And on
Ewing
that note, I
Gillen
think
too. It's like you're not going to pick anybody at that point, which is good.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Teak, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I mean, you guys really covered it. This is such a transitionary thing, and it's like bigger than we could ever discuss in a way to really wrap up. And on top of that, it's going into something else. This is one that, like, my final thoughts are probably going to happen in like 2 years when everything has sussed out. But like issue to issue, it's really like you get all of the big thoughts really early on, which is like it's stupid gorgeous, it's really nuts, it's really cool, and like it's not flawless, but the whatever flaws are there kind of don't matter in a way that for some other books, for me, the flaws do matter. So I mean, it is just a really interesting book, but I'll be processing it for a while.
And I just want to say, I think, Steve, this is your last segment with us today. And I just want to say thank you so much for being on. Do you want to give your sign off one more time?
I do. I want to give my sign off. I want to say, Jake, I look forward to reading Sins of Sinister and Marauders with you, at least in the future, because we are on the same wave about that one. I'm going to miss all of you until the next segment next week. Love you all. My name is Steve, and you can find me on Twitter at howdoyoudo. Just go there. That's the easiest place to find me.
All right. And
I don't respond to email.
Who does?
I answer the phone. Don't try to find me.
Don't send us anything on K-Mail, which is Krakoa Mail, right? But in the interim, you can check out commercials for real products that do exist now. we're back, and this is like a dream come true segment for us in a lot of ways. But I want to say that the people on this screen, a number of us were involved in a major Limbo project, and we did not fucking know this issue was coming when we did that project. And Nathan, I'm just so excited that you get this. This is just like I'm over the moon for you. So
yeah, I gotta say, so this Legion of X number 8, like at first I wasn't maybe sold on Spurrier's like, you know, series overall, but the last few issues have been consistently getting better and better and better. This is a personal favorite of mine so far, for obvious reasons. The big reveal at the end, to go back to the circus, Margali Zardos. You're like, oh my god, it's Margali. But you know, just even before that reveal, I just, the use of Jax as the Black Knight, somebody who I absolutely love. We actually got a reveal of her mutant abilities. Like this really influenced, you know, this is really, maybe not influenced, but like it was like coming out right about the same time we were doing our teams, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. This is like my team pretty much. Like, because I got Nightcrawler, we got Jax, then you know Margali's there, and I'm like, oh my god. You know, it's, but this issue does a lot, and I can't wait to see how you all feel about it. But to start, how do y'all feel about the involvement of Black Knight as an official mutant, her power revealed? You know, I've got to say, for me, having Black Knight as a mutant is something that's cool, because Dane, her dad, has always been often mutant adjacent, hanging out a lot with Brian, who's also mutant adjacent, and doing weird Black Knight and Captain Britain stuff. But
sexy
like
otherworld stuff.
I know, right? And then you like, you know, and then you get other, you know, Dane goes a lot of places. He goes to Otherworld, Weird World, like the past all the time. That dude, he goes to the Malibu universe. You know,
Malibu. Pull there, bro.
Oh my god, I forgot about the Malibu verse.
Ultra.
Right? I mean, he was on
The Exiles with Juggernaut or something.
It was the other team. It was the Justice League team. The Exiles had Juggernaut, Sienna Blaze, and Reaper of all
Ultra
people.
Force?
Yes, thank you. I forgot it.
Ultra Force.
Yeah. But like,
some
you know,
cartoons too for a while.
Dane goes places. You know, so to have his daughter be a mutant, really, really exciting to me. So how do y'all feel about the introduction, the bridging over of Jax, the Black Knight, into this book?
We've been covering Black Knight on this show since, I want to say, the 12th episode. This is episode 423. So we've been covering Black Knight on this show for quite a while. And we're fans. Producer Kevo is actually, now that he's on this segment, has literally been a part of every segment that ever covers the Black Knight in all of that time. And it really feels like Simon Spurrier is coming in and saying, this other person used to write this side of the Excalibur stuff, and they're icky to talk about now. So I'm going to do it so y'all can talk about it again. Maybe I'll get to the other Hellfire Club. Maybe not. But either way, you guys get to enjoy cool shit again. Thank you.
I am apparently into this really only and specifically for the spirit of variance now, because Nico made me into a Ghost Rider person, and now that's my whole identity, which is a weird place to be in. It's doubly weird because Nico's is Robbie Reyes, which is an amazing choice, but like that's not how he got me into it, and that's not my Ghost Rider. And now just like suddenly out of nowhere, I'm really into like Banshee with a flaming head, and the Vox Ignis. There's just so much there. But I love that it's like a C plot story. It's very tertiary.
Like you do with Banshee.
Now I'm just reading a Banshee Ghost Rider book, and love that for me.
Yeah.
Not really.
Somebody.
Yeah. So like I gotta say Ghost Rider Banshee is also another one. Jonah, Jake, what are y'all thoughts?
Well, I really do think that it's fun seeing a gay Ghost Rider, because that purple flame is all signal for me. I'm like, oh yes, so Banshee and Ghost Rider are a couple now. A Ghost Rider, a spirit of variance is so I love that. I think it's such a, I don't know if it has come up in the Ghost Rider mythos in book form before this. Someone wiser than me should tell me, but I think as a twist on the Ghost Rider concept, especially since this book is really interested in spirits and like higher level orders of beings, what goes into the creation of deity in the Marvel universe. It's complicating and kind of codifying these Ghost Rider spirits as sort of an order of their own and how they connect with humans, and that there are many of them. It makes some sense, and it feels constructively additive, given that we've had so many spirits of vengeance. There's got to be something else out there that's related. I like that this is the mutant. This is kind of a queer cousin. I'm reading Tori's comment. If you don't have a flaming head, should you even be discussed on Gay X Twitter? No, you shouldn't. Poor
Fair
Match,
question.
by the way. Poor Match. Never had a chance. Jackie Chopra's powers remind me of infectious powers. That's what I came here to say. The sudden, like, I touch you and you have powers is very infectia, but it doesn't seem like they burn people out to death, which is, I don't know, maybe that's unfortunate, but I really like the turns that this book has taken. And I like that this feels like we're pushing down and we're pushing the plot further. And we're getting to understand like how these different kinds of magic are impacting mutancy and the mutant nation. And it all feels very woo in a fun way. Like magic woo.
Magic woo.
Magic woo. Purple means he's into piercing, so do with that with what you will. So I will say all the A, B, and C story have me fascinated for this title. I am slightly concerned about how many spinning plates we have and whether or not we will be able to keep all three of them up, because it is a lot. There are three completely separate stories going on that are covering three separate topics, and I am slightly concerned if we're going to have enough time for each story to get their proper justice, because I actually think all three stories are quite interesting. Whether you're looking at the Warlock Doug story, where there's a spirit that slithered into the husk that Warlock used to have, and what that means for Doug and what that means for the Krakoan gates that are now dodging people. Whether we're looking at the Black Knight storyline, and we're talking about the we're talking about this magic that this magic old storyline, the Winding Way, where we have Margali Zavros. We have this person who put this spell or curse on the Black Knight to have her powers kind of go out of haywire and give people who think mutants that are monstrous mutations that are also just weird and funny, like shooting ice beams out of your elbows. Where's his story? Him and Iceman should, have some fisticuffs. And then there's also the blindfold visiting Charles and being like,
that was
"You're
amazing.
a bad father. Do better. He doesn't need your help. He just wants your love, you bald, sad monster." She called him a monster.
Well, she's called
and was right.
Someone's got
to need eyes to see the
She
truth.
is not wrong. She's not wrong.
He's
just
not
saying
just a jerk.
No. Charles Xavier is not just a big meanie. He is a big monster, according to Ruth. And so we have these three interesting storylines that I'm really interested to see where they go. But I am, like I said, concerned that are we going to have enough time to develop? Was Cy Spurrier given enough time? Because obviously we don't know the future. We don't know how many more titles we have for this, whether this is going to continue on. That's why I said we. So I am a little concerned because I do know that Marvel does like to end stories after a certain number, and I do get worried about that. Yeah. But I will say I was very pleasantly surprised and happy Yes, Charles is a fugly slut. Do not trust her. The skankiest bitch I've ever met.
John Stamos could not tell her that her hair was pretty.
No, she was not beautiful tonight. And Charles is never beautiful. I was happy to see Margali.
Yes. I was like, Margali! This caused me to reread some of the Nightcrawler series where I rediscovered maybe the dropped plot thread that Nightcrawler says, oh, Amanda was also rescued like Kurt, so like maybe Amanda's adopted. We gotta see if hopefully nobody else picks up with that, because it's never been anywhere else except for that Nightcrawler series from Kurt and from Chris Claremont. I'm so excited to see where this is going to go, though. I can't wait to see, Morgali. I can't wait to see. Hopefully, Jermaine comes back. Give me some Amanda. Give me some Amanda. Give me some Amanda. I love how this is not an Excalibur book, but this is right now is reading like an Excalibur book of old to me. I'm like
the weird parts.
Yeah, the weird parts, and I'm like, oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is great. I love that was my shit. Like, I love that. And I just can't wait to see where this is going. I can't. The one thing with the Banshee, the Spirit of Variance, like, there's so much Ghost Rider lore coming into everything. Like, Jason Aaron's got a lot of it going on in his Avengers run. We got the main Ghost Rider lore. I'm like, how does it all make sense? But you know what? At some point, you just go with it because it's fun, and you don't worry about if it makes sense.
I want to put it in the Fantastic Four. I want to write the Spirit of the Fantastic, and I want it to be that, like, out of nowhere, Sue Storm's hands can catch on energy fire, and she can burn the lies out of her kids.
Is it like our Ghost Rider powers, like Captain Universe?
Damn husband.
No, there's no help for him. But yes, it's like I'm pointing the wrong. Yes, it's like Captain Universe powers, Nathan. I think I've just always really wanted to be Paul Lynde. My dream has always been being the center square. Well, let me tell you. It's always been my dream. So, like,
circle gets the square.
Circle gets the square. It's anyway.
Yeah. And then so like what?
Too much.
That was great. So we're leading into Sinister. This is one of the books that is getting a tie-in book. Nightcrawlers is going to be it. Do we think that has because we know that X-Men Red was another book who's getting a tie-in, and we know that Orvis Stellaris was just revealed to be a big part of it. Do we think that I'm still standing firm in my ideas that Mother Righteous almost has to be the Heart Sinister?
I love that. I mean,
Yeah.
Mother
I think
Righteous,
so.
Mr.
Yeah.
Sinister. It's a beautiful parallel.
Dr. Stasis.
Yeah, it's a
Orvis
perfect
Stellaris.
parallel.
Everyone's got a title and a name.
She's stupid fabulous. She's hyper obsessed with genetically based creatures. Like, everybody in this book is somebody who's of a genetic lineage. So you've got the relation for Blindfold. You've got the relation for Legion. You've got the relation to Mystique with Nightcrawler. You've got the relations to, maybe Banshee.
The masterminds with Pixie.
Yeah, maybe it's not the biggest deal, but Banshee has a huge family of super mutants like Black Tom.
Yeah.
So the fact that your pitch is
And
that it's
Teresa.
Mother Righteous is Mr. Sinister,
And
when there's
Teresa.
so many. Well,
Oh, and Teresa is also like got some kind of spirit that lived in her for a while.
Oh shit, she's got the Morrigan. Yeah, first
Did.
I was
Morgan-
like,
the
guys,
Morgan's
let's
dead
not
though.
get too excited
But
about
yeah,
Teresa for a second.
Hey,
But- okay.
I will not accept this siren slander.
But yeah, I love that. Great call. Great call. Love it.
I'm really curious about how the Legion subplot is going to play into it, because the end of that scene with Blindfold was really suggestive, and I felt like it could go either way. He mentioned something called Daedalus, and if you're up on your Greek mythology, Daedalus was a creator, a maker who had many. He made the Minotaur's maze. He made a set of wings that he gave his son Icarus, which Icarus took and flew too close to the sun. That's that whole story. But I wonder, because in the myth, Daedalus loves his son and he wants to help him and he wants him to be free. And it was Icarus's own hubris that caused him to fly too close to the sun. And I feel like the way that scene left off could go either way. Either Charles is going to continue down the path of being a terrible father and a terrible monster, and is going to enact some protocol to try and trap Legion or control him, or he's going to give him some kind of tool that might help him thrive, that he's like kind of been working on because he has this gnawing guilt. And frankly, I'd love to see that at this point. I want there to be some movement forward on that relationship.
Like a therapist.
Yeah.
Daedalus is the name of his therapist.
Daedalus.
He's calling Daedalus.
Dr. Daedalus is here to see you.
Daedalus Sampson.
Dr. Daedalus will see you now. Yeah.
I love that.
It's such an old plot thread. The Xavier and Legion like conflicting. It would be cool to see some advancement of that after all these years, and this would be such a great time in David's development for that to occur.
So for me, this book is a book that really has grown as the series has progressed. I think it had for me a rough start. Maybe I just didn't love what it was doing at first. So like with that, I'm super excited about what's coming up. We got the Winding Way coming up. Like you cannot be more excited for anything than like some fucking Zardo stories. Like I'm like, oh my god, we got some Aaron mentions over the last few months. We got Winding Way going on now. Like, give me a big crossover event where it's the Winding Way. So that is my final thought. Let me hear what y'all's final thoughts are on this, for me, amazing issue.
Jonah.
Yo.
If people don't mind, when we got the last issue, I think the last issue didn't do the exact best job of setting up how much I was actually going to enjoy this issue. I was a little bit worried when we first read number 7 and we covered it, because I think there were just some things that didn't quite jive because we didn't have all the information just yet. But on reflection, I think 7 is a little bit better than I initially thought, because 8 has so many interesting storylines going on that I am just really excited to see how they're all going to play out.
Full stop. Got it.
Full stop.
Yeah. Full stop.
I'm excited. I'm excited for all the potential that exists from the storylines that are coming up for this, for ways to connect the X-Men to more obscure parts of the Marvel universe. We just did Avengers, X-Men, Eternals, like the really big things that like you'd expect the X-Men being such a big property to be connected to. The X-Men having their own spirit of vengeance, that's really cool to me. The X-Men having a mutant that is Black Knight that is connected to the Arthurian legend in a way that can then tie into the other world connections to Arthurian legend. That's really exciting to me. Getting back to the Zardos family, which now through our Avenger stuff could wind up being like one of the first families of Marvel. Like there's stuff there too. But all of this stuff is really obscure. A lot of people don't know about it, but the potential is so there. And I think every time that is what gets me about this book.
I think this book needs a symbiote, and I think it needs to attack Legion, and it needs to be a psychic symbiote, and then I think we're going to psychically stroll into the summer of symbiotes ready to fuck some shit up. And then, when it's the fall of the Ghost Riders, we're going to have a Ghost Rider, you're going to have a Ghost Rider, we're going to put a Marvel high concept in every fucking one of these books, and then suddenly, the whole Marvel universe is going to be inextricably linked, which is why Loki wound up in every book for a couple of months. That's
True.
the magic of actually not giving a shit about what movie studio has what rights. And put a symbiote in this fucking book, because Cy Spurrier's weird enough. Make it that weird symbiote from Ben Percy's Wolverine that was so wacky that had no reason to be there. Do it. I want it. Cy
Or the
Spurrier,
one from
you have
the one
my
from
faith and trust.
Marauders.
Sure.
Lost.
There are a bunch of
Leave that
symbiotes
one in
kicking around who are
Marauders.
involved right now. There's that neon one from Damage Control that popped up. That'd be fun.
Love it. Love it. Give me a real faggy neon one. Yes. And then as Tori posts, Alyssa Wong symbiote. No, but if I could get a real faggy one,
Yes.
like,
Story. Yeah.
like a neon queer
Yes.
symbiote that's like, hey, Fithy. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be into it.
I love her already.
Yeah, this book is so much about family family everywhere. You know, whether it's Kane, you know, agonizing over his relationship with Charles, to Black Tom, you know, Banshee, you know, not wanting to have a relationship with Black Tom, Warlock's dad is dead, Legion's having a tough time with his dad. Like, there's so many, I mean, there's so many daddy issues here, but like, just so many, just really interesting family dynamics being explored. And since, you know, the X-Men at its core is to me about chosen family, there's something really resonant about these characters who are not only like living amongst their chosen people, but having to deal with their bio family and kind of find some resolution in sharing this space together. Because all mutants should be welcome on Krakoa, and all people who have like Juggernaut, who've supported and like been waved into the mutant family, should be welcome on Krakoa and shouldn't be kept out because they have weird family baggage with their brother who happens to be the head of, like, you know, on the Quiet Council. I really like what this book is doing relationally. I like seeing how these characters are growing together, whether they're coming into conflict or they're coming into concordance. It's really exciting, and I think is really advancing some decades-old character work in new and interesting ways. So that's what I'm really here for in this. And right down to here, we've got, you know, Kurt confronting his stepmother or his adopted mother again. So I wonder what that's going to look like, because they've had a very contentious relationship as well. So it's exciting. It's really exciting. And I'm curious about what Cy Spurrier's connection to all of these ideas is, and how he's thinking about teasing these out, and where he goes with it.
Well, you know what I'm excited to tease out, and you know where I'm excited to go.
Commercial.
This commercial. Pow! Pow? So I am thrilled because directly beneath me, though she is usually right alongside me, the Electra to my Daredevil, the I don't know, the bullseye to my Kingpin, but you're the smart one. So anyway, hey lady, say what your name is.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tori. You can find me on Twitter at Tori_Sheehan and on Instagram at SMTori. That's Tori with an I. And I'm here to learn a whole lot about this ex-girlfriend of Iceman.
The Karen to my Foggy. Yeah, like Kevo just said, the Karen to my Foggy. Okay, the ex-girlfriend to Iceman. Interesting. I want to start there. First things first, we're here to talk about the X-Men Annual by Steve Fox, with beautiful art by Andrea DeVito, colors by Sebastian Chang, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. And the first thing I want to say is, so I opened this book and I'm like, all right, well, there's Angelica. And I'm like, I guess Bobby can be Eliza, and I'm like, oh,
Mm.
Alex is Peggy. Wow. One theater chuckle right down there. Great. I know my audience. So, the X-Men annual, the X-Men Hamuel, as it were.
Hamuel.
I really am so fucking tired of this team. I just am. I am fucking tired of this team in this book being everywhere and having one beat. We don't like each other. We shouldn't be here, but we fuck anyway, even the siblings. And then Steve Fox comes in and says, I'm going to write a pretty good issue.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. It doesn't really do much, but what it will give me is a reason to remember why I like this team. It's not that Jerry Duggan isn't a competent writer. He's an excellent writer, but I'm tired of this team. It's not that their involvement in Dark Web and Judgment Day doesn't make sense. All of their inclusions by Kieran Gillen and guys like Zeb Wells are terrific. They are brilliant writers. I'm tired of this team. I am really glad that Steve Fox did this special. I'm tired of the team. So how do you guys feel about the team that was forced down our throats at the Hellfire Gala that's been on the cover of every fucking book? How do you guys feel?
Okay, so, you know, I actually like Firestar being on a team, and I like this issue for diving into, you know, a lot of her concerns. I love the use of the Hellions. I mean, I got to see my big goofy purple Cat's Eye. I love this issue. The whole makeup of the team overall sucks. It sucks so much. Like it's so like it's like Havoc versus Cyclops all the time. We've got like all the time. We've got like Ford just being a jackass. We've got Yana not really doing much but being the magic school bus and taking people everywhere. We've got like you know, it's cute to see Iceman and Firestar, but like in comics they're not even like that much of friends, but like, oh my god, they were on a cartoon together that's not in comics, so they're best friends. Yeah, there's a lot I hate about this team. There's character choices that I'm like, oh cool, I like that inclusion, but it's so 05 heavy. It's so like, it's like retread and like Sync. I'm just like, I love that Sync's getting some, you know, characterization and doing really like Sync, but like also like the whole vault thing with Laura was like, why bring her back? That's not gonna do any good for anybody's story.
It's been really weird that we are given this team that in continuity, they're saying like it needs to be the flagship X-Men team. We need to go back to New York. We need to go back to the thing that America in the Marvel universe, but also America, the readers know and love, which is the X-Men being in the world, being the X-Men. And then, you know, we got a weird mixed but not bad first year of that. You know, some interesting stuff happened. A lot of it being like Sync becoming Sync, you know, getting his due finally. And that was really cool. But there was a lot that was like, okay, there are characters in this book that are barely appearing and are like showing up to say they're going home. Then we redo the Hellfire Gala and the vote again. Feels a little soon. Okay. This time around, it's literally like everybody hates being on the team. Their purpose there was like a joke. It's just like, if the idea is to have a flagship X-Men team that we're supposed to recognize as being an X-Men team, drama is fine. Yeah, why do they hate it? And why are some of them like literally spiteful jokes?
Yeah. Okay, and maybe they get something else. Sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say maybe they get something else. All right. This is like the assimilationist type team, and all the characters on the team are a lot of very assimilationist type characters. Like Havoc totally is. He worked for the government. Forge worked for the government. You know, you got Angel here. You've got, but then like Magic makes no sense being on a team of these like assimilationist mutants. No, neither does Cyclops anymore. Like after everything he went through Utopia,
That was
Iceman.
Jean.
Iceman's kind of an assimilation, so we'll give him that. But like, and then Jean like turned into like the biggest assimilationist of all. She's like, "We'll bring back your dead for you."
I think that's more about not denying people a resource, but I do hear what you're coming from. If it wasn't the preciousness of life, I would be like assimilationist, but I more see it like I'm a phoenix, guys. Want to see some eggs? And like,
What is he saying?
so Jonah,
Does she lay
Tori-
them? What are you saying?
Is she?
Nathan, listen to me. Nathan, did you read Avengers 62? Nathan?
64.
Nathan, 64?
Oh, I haven't read
Nathan?
64 yet. Not yet. No. Oh my God, is it
Nathan,
crazy?
we get some serious answers about the Phoenix.
Okay, I have to read that after
Do you
this.
watch her lay an egg out of her phoenix cloaca? That's the only answer I'm
really
looking for now.
recommend you read
Yeah,
this
yes,
because
yes, it
she's
better
an
be the
actual
answer to that.
giant bird. She's an actual giant fucking bird, okay? So,
We will be
all right,
discussing more. Don't worry.
Phoenix.
Jonah, Tori, Jake, this side. I need to know, what are your guys' feelings about this team, this book, this and Firestar, the titular character?
So this issue is kind of what I've been waiting for. After calling her the resident diversity hire, she finally kind of showed up, and I was really appreciative that we kind of got a story focusing on Firestar because she's the character I think this issue should have came a long time ago, or at least what this issue is trying to talk about. This issue was a little too long in the making, and I feel like it's really unfortunate that a story like this came so late in this team's lifespan, because I hear the sentiment and the almost tiredness of this team because they're being written without chemistry, and part of that is you're writing a lot of this team already has pre-established relationships and already pre-established bonds. It doesn't feel as exciting that now they're all just mad at each other and don't want to really work together or hate each other or kind of going against one another. It feels a little trying. It is a little tired for me, so I am a little bit ready to kind of retire this team, which is unfortunate because there are some cool characters here, but that is just kind of the way of this team did get a little squandered in my opinion. However, I did find this issue a very big breath of fresh air because it felt like an actual team where nobody was fighting, and the idea of this issue makes perfect sense, especially if we're going to be focusing on Angelica Firestar. So I am
Like,
very
that's her
appreciative.
full name.
Angelica Firestar.
And that's Scott Cyclops and his brother Alex Cyclops.
Stop it! No.
I'm obsessed, Jonah.
gonna
That's
cry.
Wait, is Jean Grey Marvel Girl?
It's Jean Grey.
Jean Grey?
Jonah, you have literally explained so much of why superheroes have struggled with secret identities for so long.
Jean Grey.
Well, yeah, because all these superheroes, their last name is their superhero identity. I don't know why they didn't choose a different name.
Yeah, and you actually do that all the time. You do go Alison Blair Dazzler, Teresa O'Rourke Cassidy Siren, and like you're right.
It's a
I really
hyphenated
love it.
name.
It's Jean.
Jean Grey. Love her.
I have a couple of notes. One, what the hell is on Firestar's chest? Is that a starfish? What is that? Is it what if it's a fire star? What's a fire star? That doesn't seem like a real thing. And therefore
Aren't all
was Jumbo
stars
Carnation
fire?
drunk?
No,
the
sure.
plasma.
If you want to get into like technically,
Gas.
they're balls of gas. They're gas.
But they're like ignited gas, right?
Plasma.
No.
I don't.
You know,
I,
that fifth
it-
one.
And also, it looks like a star that I would have drawn on my note, like a freehand star that I would have drawn on my notebook, poorly because I don't know how to do proportion. Like I don't understand it. Is it spinning? Is it supposed to be spinning? Okay, let's set that aside. How long has Iceman been wearing a sex harness as his costume?
I was noticing that too today.
Since the Infinity series where he moved back to LA because
So
he's
this
like,
is-
That makes so much sense. He's in LA and just wearing a harness
Okay.
around. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, and that's like his only. It's like a harness, and like it almost looks like a jock the way the X belt comes in, but okay. Love it.
It's actually when
Live
he's
his life.
when he's out of
Sure.
ice form,
Hi,
it's like an
Beast.
all white outfit.
Oh, that's cute. But I still like it. I like that it's suggestive of a harness because who doesn't want to grab that? Bye Beast was such a funny joke, and I love those like Bobby. But the thing that I really loved about this was Angelica's take on how she related to mutant community, because I found it to be this really familiar kind of experience, like queer experience of the queer person who doesn't find their entry point into queer community and kind of stays out and says, you know, I don't have a place here. Why would I be here? Before maybe eventually finding that entry point and kind of tiptoeing their way in. I remember a lot of queer folks, you know, as media representation was only showing one kind of queer person for a while, didn't feel like they were represented in media. There's something really genuine about her, sort of what she's saying about like I didn't feel like I had a place. Like I tried mutant community as a young person, it went catastrophically bad, so I went with the Avengers because they were all superheroes of different stripes. I like that. I like that take. It got me more than I thought it would. I usually just kind of hate her, but Steve Fox did a really great job humanizing her and really queering up her experience in a way that I felt some powerful resonance, which I thought was incredible. Because I hate this character.
Well, while we all kick back with a big bowl of Jello and some glue, Tori, why don't you talk to us about your feelings about Firestar, and we'll be off to the races.
1. Do the X-Men and the Avengers actually hate each other? Because it feels like they got beef.
You know, it's sort of like
the X-Men hate the Avengers.
and the Mets.
The Avengers don't hate the X-Men.
Oh.
The Avengers don't think about the X-Men.
It's the Mets-Yankees problem?
Oh, yeah.
It's like a perceived rivalry, but you're all in the same league, you know what I mean? Like, you're all playing Major League Baseball.
Okay.
End of the day.
Okay.
And you've all kind of got your thing. You've got your stadium. There's not as much overlap, but you only got so many heads to put baseball caps on, bro.
Gotcha.
So...
Gotcha. Okay, well then, I guess my other thing is that I wasn't as bothered by the team, obviously because I haven't been reading them for forever, but also just because they were there for all of the like big splashy fight pages, and I was like, that's nice, pretty, move along, back to the hospital, please. It doesn't really have any resonance into the story itself. It's just a bunch of fun ideas to make the annual exciting. I wasn't that bothered by it. I had questions to myself of why Cyclops is the one she's paired up with when it seems like Iceman is the one that she normally gets paired up with. But then I remembered we have to have Jean have a link back to them so they can chat. And so I was like, fine, it's Cyclops, I guess. Although I want to know what everyone else was doing when him and Jean are like snuggling in the middle of the meeting and having their telepathic communications. I'm just like, is everyone else just like, so what level are you on Candy Crush? Like, you get Royal today? I took 3 out of 6. Like, what's up? Like, so for me, like, I didn't know anything about this character. I didn't know anything about a lot of the characters on the side that I saw. I didn't know who this whole group of people who were mad at her were about, even though they looked super cool. So I just enjoyed like a story of a gal who's like coming into a new school and trying to like make her way into, you know, she's been forced onto the super popular big team, and now she's like, okay, but now everyone hates me because I used to work for the other guys who are still on our team, but not really. And I was just like, okay, this is interesting. And I love also the idea of like Krakoa sending medicine and all of that fun, introspection. All of the idea that Krakoa is providing resources for the community, for the countries. And I'm so fascinated that there are some major countries that are saying no to it. And that I love that there's a black market thing, because of course there would be a black market thing. So like the world building that was done in this was really cool for me. And I liked all of the little sidebar things that were like, how does she get her costume? And the other one that's escaping me right now, but I found them really cool. And I just think that like it was a solid intro issue, I guess, and you got to see like a bunch of characters that you sort of know get to be super cool and blast things out of the sky.
And you know, I do think it was just kind of a fun issue. The thing I just need to point out is like, bless whoever decided Fred J. Dukes gets to look like this.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there really is more than one way to be beautiful and sexy and hot as shit. And,
Well, it started in Age of X-Men, right?
yeah. And I just really love that we live in a world where Blob is hot. And, you know, he can be 400 pounds and hot. And, like, it genuinely kind of looks like Blob there is doing his best Arturo cosplay. Like
The mustache.
I see it.
With the mustache.
Yeah.
He's just, with the hair, he's super hot. He looks super cool. You know, Victor's had a great impact on him. I just want to thank this issue for being one that didn't just exist when I'm like, why does it have to exist? But I'm walking away with some cool moments from it. And I would love to get everybody's final thoughts on this issue. We'll go Nathan, TK, and then Jonah, Tori, Jake.
Okay, so I have to say I love the bringing in of Whirlwind as the adversary for this issue. It made perfect sense with Firestar as a character.
Totally.
That like they're the two same types of mutants. You know, like she obviously went in the opposite direction now. You know, and he's just kind of like, oh, I don't care that I'm a mutant. They're gonna fucking kill us all anyway. So let's just go steal some shit. It's fun. You know, like Whirlwind's ass and like. Famously stalked Jan Van Dyne for years, so like I always like to see him get taken down. I did love the use of Hellions. I loved the like, even though she didn't get much time, like this panel right here where you know, Roulette is sitting right next to Cat's Eye and Cat's Eye's tail is going. I'm like, oh my god, this is like the best thing ever. And I just got to say, it's so weird that the Hellions though would try to go after Angelica after they all died because they all died because they were attacked by Sentinels. So like, wouldn't they like maybe see why maybe she wouldn't have wanted to have been so closely associated with being a mutant? I don't know. It's weird, but I know they have history. They have beef. You know, because of. They do have beef.
And a little Bevatron.
And Bevatron.
Get streaming.
Yeah, Nico, you summed it up perfectly. Like, this team has been rough. This last year with the team has been rough. This was a great issue for this team, but having it be the last one of the year after a rough year, it just unfortunately makes it difficult for it to be as well received as it could have been. But really great writing. You know, I've responded better to Firestar than I thought I would. I hope things get better in 2023 for the flagship X-Men.
Jonah McKid, what you think?
So I ultimately was really happy with this issue. I was really fascinated with them talking about Angelica's chemotherapy, talking about how her powers gave her radiation. There's one quick thing I want to talk about, and I have to say thank you to TK for helping me recognize who these characters are. There is a moment where we see Angelica in her apartment, and I initially thought it was Misty Knight, Hellcat, and somebody I couldn't recognize. And TK was like, "Is that Colleen Wing?" And then he looked into it.
No, it's the Marvel Divas. It's the Marvel Divas.
It's the Marvel Divas.
It's the Divas.
It's Monica Rambeau. It's Hellcat Patsy Hellcat, I should say.
Patsy Hellcat.
And but it is also Black Cat. Black Cat's just very easy to recognize.
Yeah.
Something that I was talking about with TK that I would love, and it would have been nice, as cheesy as it sounds, anything to give an indication that is Monica Rambeau if you're not immediately familiar with those of the Divas, like giving her like a little star earring, something, because we have there are so many beautiful Black women in Marvel Comics that they should have a little bit of a designation of, you should be able to identify one from another. If you're not fully familiar of the exact area of where they're from. Point digress. Everything else about this issue kind of worked for me. And I'm really kind of excited, well, for the new team.
I enjoyed this a lot. I just found it to be fun. I really liked the major story here. I had a good time. I liked Firestar. I liked all of the I love the zombie X babies, which were adorable and hilarious and so much fun. And I love the comment of why is he so obsessed with them? So that was really fun for me. And I think just the idea of getting welcomed in, even if it's a little like even if it's a little 50-50 for a lot of people, I think is really important to show that like not everyone is in lockstep on Krakoa.
I think I continue to come back to how ultimately fascinated I am with how much good character work we've gotten in the last, 2023 now, almost 4 years. Like, what a privilege it's been to see these mutants grow and to get some deep cuts who've been on the page and really gotten some time to like shine and develop. And Firestar, though, controversial, is no exception there. And this is an issue where she really shines. Pun is there. And it's well written. It's solid. It keeps the focus really on her. And she's got something to say about the Krakoan experience that hasn't really been fully explored. And I think that it's done well here. And I think Steve Fox did a really phenomenal job balancing putting a character like that front and center in a team book, and letting the team, kind of sit in the background doing what it needs to do while she's having her arc. And I love the art in this too. I love how her costume just glows a little bit throughout, even though it has that weird star thing. So all in all, really solid annual for a series that has been very wobbly in general, with a team that's been very wobbly in general and doesn't seem like they want to be there.
Well, I'm really glad that Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were. I didn't mean to cut you off. You good?
Oh no, I said full stop.
Oh, good. Thank you. I just want to say that I love that a bunch of these annuals have been paying attention to other creators. While the Steve Orlando annual ultimately resulted in Steve Orlando taking on Marauders, there was an exciting X-Force annual by a writer that is not the regular writer on X-Force. Now we've had this exciting annual. And speaking of both foxes, from Steve Fox to someone who is a fox.
Oh, Lord.
And from one weird team scenario to another, a few weeks back, we played an unforgettable game. And in the course of that unforgettable game, we swore there would be a sequel.
Oh shit.
We said there would be something greater than a sequel. I am summoning Christmas back. Thank you, Kevo. You're the greatest producer in the world. And from this gorgeous... Oh, and we're back. And from this, I believe I am flip-flacking the baton over that way.
It's my turn. So, guys, I talked to the bigwigs. They were so impressed with your pitches, with the books that you wanted to do. They're really just excited about this new creative talent, these brilliant ideas that you have. But they thought, can we get some synergy in? Can we get this trending? What's cool with the kids these days? What's going to go on the TikToks? And they said they heard that the 90s are very cool right now. And they really want to get 90s with it. So the suits have asked me to come to you and say that they would like to do a 90s event. And they have decided they would like to title. They think this is brilliant, and I couldn't agree more. And I know you all do too. It's Age of 90s.
That's very good marketing.
It is very good. These are people who have good ideas and make a lot of money. And
extremely good.
They have asked me to pair each of you with an iconic 90s team, and for you to tell a story explaining how the team that you created wound up with this iconic 90s team, whether it be through time travel forward, time travel backward, a reunion. You can do it however you want, but you are each going to be paired with a team. and I'm going to tell you who right now.
Are like scrolls, robots, magic, mind control? Is it all in the mix?
Anything is possible. And more. You're about to see. Right off the bat, I'm talking about that iconic 90s team, ForceWorks, one of my personal favorites. Absolutely love ForceWorks, and I'm very excited to say that Nathan is going to be going with ForceWorks.
West Coast Avengers forever.
There you go. Yeah, and if you want to gesture more towards that, that's okay. Next, we've got the original, getting new life right now, but the original Midnight Suns. A little spooky, a little magic-y. I couldn't think it goes to a better person than Jacob. Jacob.
You stole the Flaming Skull from Nico?
I'm like, when you said that, I was like, it must be going to me.
I was like, that's so Nico. That's so Nico.
Oh, my friends, it gets so much better. These really were random, and I will tell you, if there's one better piece of synergy for Nico, it is, of course, Thorcore.
Out of my way!
Again, just a bunch of white dudes and a horseman being Thors, doing Thor stuff, which is just so Nico.
Just a couple of
Nico,
guys being Thors.
How is my team gonna do this?
And then we've got, of course, the skateboarding New Warriors, featuring our friend Angelica Firestar and other people, including a dude who used to bounce and then started to do bondage stuff. And that is going to be for Tori.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Who are these people? Is that the thing?
And that leaves us... And that leaves us with an iconic team from the 90s, but not the 90s you're thinking of. It's X-Men 2099, and that's going to Jonah.
Oh, my Lanta.
So I will go over with you the specific parameters and rules, but you're going to have more time than we gave you last time. You're going to have at least a month. So we are going to, I know you're going to need some research, but you're going to pitch another story for the amazing team that you created, and we are going to get back together to tell the story of how everybody got super 90s, and that's a really cool and good idea.
Thank you, TK.
Yes. Oh, I can see how happy you all are and how great this is going to turn out. To quote a person that Nico is a huge fan of now, I can't wait to see how this turns out.
Which
okay.
queen do I love is that?
It's RuPaul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I completely.
Oh, I see. So you were trying to have a reunion without me.
She wasn't invited, but she's here.
Never forget whose podcast this is, sweetie. You've been showing me too much Drag Race. I've been watching too much holiday Magic Parks competition and also too much Drag Race, so I'm feeling very dramatic.
The drama is high.
The drama is high.
Wow, I'm so excited to play more. I'm thrilled. This is wild.
We're gonna have fun. Don't worry.
Oh, it's gonna be a blast once we each learn a little more about the 90s.
We will get you hooked up with everything you need to know about the New Warriors. Really, one of them does fight with a skateboard. Get excited.
I can't wait.
Man.
I love skateboards.
Oh, Night Thrasher.
And you've got the clone of Namor's cousin.
Namorita.
And you have the worst
Morbius.
mutant,
Morbius is gonna have a flip phone, I think.
the worst mutant ever in existence. Justice.
Later, want me to flash him again?
Yeah.
I mean, we're all doing great.
So we got ForceWorks for Nathan,
This-
right?
Yep. Midnight Suns for Jake. Thorcore for Nico.
Is Tori.
Tori gets the New Warriors. And of course,
There's
Jonah gets Such a good 90s team.
Oh, Tori, you have Dick Rider.
Well, that's new for me.
No, but his name is Richard Rider.
And I really feel like we couldn't end on a better note than that. So thank you guys all for playing the original game. And if you are watching and are wondering what we're talking about, go check out one of our previous live shows, our Christmas special, where...
Oh, I'm sorry, Kevo. Are we able to put a link to that somewhere in the video, Captain Producer?
Yeah, as an after.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll put a link in for anybody who's watching after. Yeah, everybody did really awesome pitches, and everybody's going to do another awesome pitch.
I'm so amped. I'm so amped.
All right. Well, I do
It's gonna be good.
believe
It's gonna be good.
that's the end of this broadcast, I'm pretty sure. So
Yeah.
I would love to get re-sign-offs from everybody. And as a big thank you, please don't forget to check out xsforpodcast.com, where you can get all of the information you need to check out, play along, and do more. Check us out on Twitter and whatever social medias are still around. And we'll go from there. And I'm Nico. You guys can check me out on Nico Action. That's NicoAction on all the socials.
And I am TK. Same thing. All the socials: Hive, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram. It's XNateXGrayX. Come and find me.
And I'm Nathan. You can find me on at DeslerAOA on all the all the socials, mainly Twitter.
I'm Tori. You can find me on Twitter at Tori_Sheehan and on Instagram at SMTori. That's Tori with an I.
Kevo, really? KEVOREALLY.
And I'm Jake. You can find me on Twitter at Omega Sentinel. That's OH Mega Sentinel.
And I'm Jonah, and you can follow me over anywhere you find at Peak Jonah.
And we did survive the experience.
Yay! Good job, everyone.
Our show is
Into the new year.
Yeah.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New
First
Year.
broadcast of 2023. It's going
Happy New
really
Year.
well.
The show is brought to you by the Hubs Plus Network, so don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content. And while you're at it, if you want to, you can hit that little bell so that you get alerted about our videos. We have about 3 to 4 videos a week, and you want to check that out, covering all sorts of comics, Marvel, and more. And until next time, keep those mutant lights lit, those Krakoan gateways open. Remember, we still have one more Sinister to have revealed, but we're pretty sure we know who she is. And until next time, we'll see ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.